Welcome back, and in this lesson, we're going to build this out further. So at this point, you should have basically a JavaScript string that is within a JSON format. And now I'm going to show you how you can make use of that within your code. So we also want it to update our HTML, and I want to add an unordered list, and let's give it an ID so that we can really easily select it. Now, of course, with JavaScript, there's a number of ways that you can make that selection, but the easiest way usually is just with an ID. So we're just going to stick with that because we do want to focus on working with JSON within the upcoming lessons. So next, what we want to do is we want to turn this into a usable format. So there's a number of ways to do that, and the easiest way to do that, of course, is to use JSON parse. So we're going to take the data JSON, and so this is a variable. You can obviously call it whatever makes sense for you within your application, and we'll do JSON parse, and then we're going to put the data object in there. And this time, instead of consoling out the data JSON, let's output data JSON instead of just outputting the data. So now we refresh it, and we see once again we've got a usable format of data that we can loop through and we can make use of within our JavaScript. So that's excellent, and I know that we've kind of gone in a roundabout way where we've actually turned it into a string when it was originally JSON, but the idea here is to practice and get comfortable with getting data in different types of format and then making use of them within your JavaScript. So the next thing that we want to do is I want it to hook up these elements that we've created. So I want to hook up that output, as well as I want to hook up the task list. And let's hook these up to variables. So output, and we'll just do document, and we can do get element by ID, or we could use query selector. So either one is fine. And next, let's grab that other one. So let's grab that task list. So I'm just going to use the variable names, and to spice things up, let's do document query selector, and this time let's grab that task list into query selector. So make sure that whenever you're utilizing your query selector, you got to make sure that if it's an ID, you specify it with the hash. So save, try it out, and usually I like to just make sure that I've grabbed it properly. So we can see that when I put it here in the console, I have grabbed the right element, and that is the one that I want to reference when I'm using task list. So next thing that we want to do is we want to loop through all of the tasks, and we want to build some output here within our application. So we can really easily do this with a for loop. So let's do that now. So for, and let's set variable to key, and we're going to loop through while key in data, and we're just going to grab it as data tasks, because remember that data object, we're outputting it here in the console, and everything is within the tasks. So task is the name, so that's why I've used data tasks. And let me show you what the output here is. So we can console log out key, and it's not data, it's data JSON, because we need to use the JSON format. So before we output it, let's update that. And now let's refresh it. And so there we go. So we looped through and we got all of the key values. The way that we've structured our JSON object is that we've got tasks. So that's where we've got the data JSON tasks, and we're looping through and we're getting the key. So this is equivalent whenever you're looping through an array, so you'd get the index value. So the key is the same thing. So this is how we can identify the element, and then this is the value of that element. And that's where we're getting when we're looping through there. We're getting cut grass, clean room, go to gym, make dinner, because we're simply looping through, and these are, remember, the keys again to identify this value. So that's how we've set up this JSON object, and we are going to set it up in a better way coming up in the latter part of the course. But for now, this was just a clean and simple way to start getting used to writing our JSON. So now that we can grab the key, how do you think that we can actually grab that true or false value? And that is also available within our JavaScript. So if we do, let's comma separate out this console entry, and we know that within data JSON tasks, that if we grab the object by the key name, that we can return back a value. So let's try that out. So let's refresh. And so there we go. We've got the values. So we've got cut grass false, clean room false, go to gym true, make dinner false. So all of that information is sitting in there and we're making use of it within our JavaScript code. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to build something out. So let's build out a checklist as list items within our task list here. So let's see how we can do that. And we know that we're getting this information, so now we can make use of it. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to set up our HTML. And the HTML, we'll just create a quick element here to hold that HTML. So we want to list out the key as maybe the first item there. And then here, let's do an input. And we'll do a type checkbox. And I'll show you how to get that checked off or checked off if it's true and not checked off if it's false. So I'll show you how to do that as well. And we also should assign some type of values to these checkboxes. So this is the spot to do that as well. So this is just a regular input. And I'll make it a little bit bigger so we're not losing that statement on multiple lines there. So we're just staying on that one line. So let's do the double quote. So it's a double quote, single quote. I know it's a little hard to see that, but because we started the string with single quotes and we're using double quotes within it, that's where you got to keep with that same format. So this is key plus, and then let's do a single quote to get back into our string and a double quote to close off the value here. And I know we've got quite a few quotes there, so it's a single, double, and a single to close off our string parameters there. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to simply close this one off. And let's close off this list item. And now we can do task list, and we can apply some inner HTML to that task list. And we're going to do plus equals, so that's short for task list inner HTML equals task list inner HTML plus whatever our value. So we're just going to add in that HTML. That should work, and let's go out and refresh and test it. So there we go. So we've got all of our items there listed. So now it's fairly dynamic as well. So if we update our data, this will update as well. So one other thing that we need to add in there is we need to actually check off the checkbox if the value in the key, if the key has a value of true. So the way that we can do that, we can set up a variable. So we'll use this variable, call it status, and we're going to check to see if the data tasks key value is, and remember over here it was outputting the Boolean value, so true or false. So we're looking to see if it's not true. So we've put the exclamation mark in the beginning. You can also do it the other way. You can leave that out and check if it's true, and if it's true, then add in checked. So a number of ways to do that. So if it's false, we're just going to leave it blank. And if it's true, then we're going to write the word checked. And we know that within HTML, if we write the word checked within our input, it will come out as checked off. And this one should actually be tasks to make sure that we're grabbing the object properly. So tasks key. So let's try this out. So go back out here, refresh, and so there we go. So we know that the go to gym was true. We see it over here as well. So that one comes out as checked off, and the other ones are coming back as false. So if I update our data here, we can see that we can have those checked off. So now it's up to you. Try this out for yourself. So the first thing that you need to do is to loop through your data, so the data that you created in the previous lesson, and parse it out into a usable format in data JSON. And then you can loop through it using for loop, so for key in data JSON tasks. Make sure that you get the proper object name, and you can get that from your console as well. Always console log it out so you make sure that you're getting the values right. And then once you've got the values correct, then you can just simply copy and paste these values into a ternary statement here. So basically this one reads variable status is equal to, and then we've got a condition here. So this condition is if JSON data tasks and whatever the key value is within the loop, if it's not true, then we're going to do the first one coming out as true. And if it is true, then it's going to come back as false because we've put the exclamation mark in front, and it comes back as a value of checked. And all we're doing is depositing that value of checked when we're building out our HTML, and then that HTML we're dropping into the task list. So try it out for yourself, and the next lesson we're going to continue to build this out and make it into a functioning dynamic application. And then also I'm going to show you another way that you can write the JSON code, which will probably make even more sense and be a lot more flexible when we're writing out our application. So all of that is coming up.